What up, YouTube? New series coming out. So this goes across all the GMs of the season. I know I'm starting this 2 GMs late. I'll catch up to Lightblade when it comes back as that weekly Nightfall. Otherwise, I've already got a Fallen Saber guide up, but this series is a bit different. I'm going to be uploading it pretty much 2 nights to a night prior to weekly reset. And if there's any updates like what's going to happen this week, Grasp of Avarice, a really good dungeon for high stat armor, I will mention it if you want to get these stat rolls. So first of all, this is a 2 to 3 builds to use in the upcoming Nightfall across all characters. I'll show you the first build. The first build isn't one of my favorites, but it's still a really good build in general. So the first build I've got is a 6 Coyote build going with Threadrunner Strand. So obviously making sure you got Strackle Grenade as your core with Widow's Wilk and Ensnaring Slam. So Ensnaring Slam pretty much is just that dive where you dive down and it will stun or hang enemies up. So stun Unstoppables or hang them up. The aspects or fragments I use, is Thread of Mind, Thread of Binding, Thread of Generation, and Thread of Warding. Like, you can change some of these if you want. Preferably, I would keep most of them, but it just varies on what you want to use and what you don't want to use. So similar to this, 6 Coyote as well as an exotic gives you a secondary dodge. So instead of being able to do 1 slam, I'm doing 2 slams. Obviously that takes longer to recharge, which is pretty annoying. Obviously I have abilities to work with that to make it go faster. It's just how my build's set. Otherwise, yep, that's the first build. The second build I'll show you for the Hunter. I've got 3 of them that I want to show you. Some of these builds might pop up again in newer videos and stuff, but that's because they just work so well for that Nightfall. The next one is what I use across nearly every Nightfall when I'm playing with my friends. If I'm playing with LFG, I just use whatever I want because they don't understand these builds. But my friends, I use Aeon so we can just ammo spam, heavy ammo spam like crazy. That's all it is. It's just invis with heavy ammo spam. It doesn't... Aeon just... I should mention, having this aspect, you need a sec of insight as well. Aeons are just there to provide heavy ammo as another version of a support class. I'm using Void NIGHTSTALKER with Teva. Use the fragments first. I'll go with the Security, Echo of Starvation, Echo of Dilation, and Echo of Persistence. The aspects are Vanishing Step and Trapper's Ambush. And then I should mention using Suppressor Grenade is a big key factor to this build. When I say that, suppressing stuns Overload, and if you throw that at Hive Champions, Suppression Grenade will actually tick the Hive Champions in, and like it takes about 3 or 4 seconds, but their super will go away and it will take them out of it. Just remember, when that goes away, they can activate again, so just be very careful. I use Gambler's Dodge so I can just constantly get my melee ability back, which is just for a dodging slam. It just means I don't have to hive high one, for example. Last but not least for the Hunter, quite simple one. It's just Graviton Forfeit. So this is the opposite of what Aeons is doing. This is more, I can just go invis more. I can just kind of use it much more often than what I need. If you're doing the slam attack, it increases it by 3 seconds. And if you're doing the base attack, it increases it by 2 to 3 seconds, depending. So if you're doing finishers, if you're just doing a normal throw or stuff like that, or even a normal dodge, it only increases by like 2 to 3 seconds. It just varies. But slam increases by 3 or whatever. It goes from different times. So roughly, I think it goes pretty much like, if you don't have the mod that increases your invisibility timer, it will just be like, I think 7 and 10 seconds. That's if you don't have that mod. So pretty much, if you do have that mod, it goes to like 10 and 13 seconds. It's very complicated. It's very one of the best builds that I have made when it comes to survivability. The aspects and fragments I use, Vanishing Step and Trapper's Ambush pretty much constantly. Echo of Dilation, Echo of Obscurity, Echo of Starvation, and Echo of Persistence. You could get away with not using Obscurity. You could actually use other stuff, but finishers obviously grant that extra form of invis. So I take that on board as like, I'll be a cheeky little shit and use it. I use Suppressor and I use Gambler's Dodge. Another build that I'm not going to get too much into, most of us already have. Alrighty, now we're on the Warlock build. So the simplest this with the Warlock builds is with this one, I've already got it set up exactly how I want to show you. This is a Strand Warlock Aeons build where pretty much everything gets hung up again. I'm using Aeons. If you didn't already understand what the Hunter one does, having the same sec of insight has to be across all the same characters. Obviously, this one is more to get your... It's a different change because it's not really as hard to utilize. But similar as this is the abilities and the aspects and fragments I use. So Healing Rift, I use the Shackle Grenade, I use Wanderer, and I use Mind Invocation, Mind Spun Invocation, Thread Generation, Thread of Mind, Thread of Binding, and Thread of Continuity. Pretty much that's like the best build that you could have for one of the Strand things. I would actually rate that more of a 4 out of 5. There are other things you could change in there that work better, but that also varies on what you want to use, not what pretty much everyone tells you to use. The second build that I have on the list for here is the classic Phoenix Protocol build. So if you want to be that guy just doing a pure support version, this is all to use. Obviously, Phoenix Protocol, if you don't know what it does, Phoenix Protocol pretty much increases your super for every time you get a kill in the well. You have to be in the well and assist, obviously. You get up to about half your super back with that happening prior to not picking up orbs or anything if you get enough kills. But after that, obviously, most of the time you don't get to about 3/4 of your super if you're really lucky. If you're not lucky, you get about half. That's what I noticed. Aspects and fragments to use again. Obviously, using Healing Rift, I use Healing Nade. You'll understand why I have a better use of the Healing Nade. Personally speaking, Heat Rises is actually more effective over Icarus Dash only because Heat Rises does some more things with your grenade and other shit like while you're airborne. But not to get like mainly into that, I should mention Heat Rises and Touch of Flame probably the best combination out of it all. You can use Icarus Dash as well. Icarus Dash obviously works best with Heat Rises, but in PvE content, Touch of Flame is probably the more effective build. Symbol is this: Ember of Solace, Ember of Resolve, Ember of Singeing, or Singing, whatever, and Ember of... If you read it correctly and you read it carefully, applying Restoration, Cure, or Radiant to allies, that includes yourself, will proc Benevolence, and then your grenade will speed up in healing, obviously. I forgot to mention with the stat rolls, with Warlock stat rolls and all that, I think I've said it in the previous one when I was doing my Hunter. I should pretty much be honest with people right now. The stat rolls is what you want to do with it. I don't care, but I will be making videos later on if people aren't understanding the base of the stat rolls and shit to explain where to go across all characters and what's best to work on. I can give you a brief thing right now. Warlock, first of all, focus on resilience. Second, recovery and discipline is what you're going to use next. Hunters, mobility, resilience, and probably discipline. Titans, resilience, discipline, strength. They're the 3 core aspects that every character mainly uses across all their builds. Another thing I should mention is if you want to request builds or stuff, please join the Discord. If you want a link, just say something and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can for it. I am a pretty busy person. And in the Discord, I have a section for builds. If you want to request one, request it there. If I have the armor piece and I have the time, it may take up to a week or 2 for me to get it done because I would need to find time for this. Otherwise, the last but not least build, it's actually a... any hits or any hit markers or kills, that returns more to you, back to the grenade energy. The aspects you want to be using is Chaos Accelerant and Feed the Void. If you're not using Chaos Accelerant, do not use the Exotic. The Exotic does not work without Chaos Accelerant. It's kind of a 2-in-1 you have to use, or otherwise it just doesn't work. And then obviously I'm just using Healing Rift, and I'm using Vortex Grenade, because Vortex, I can trap more enemies in a bigger grenade when you use Chaos Accelerant. Chaos Accelerant pretty much charges your grenade and increases the size and duration. Next, I use Echo Expulsion, so ability kills cause targets to explode. If you were a previous player before the 3.0s, there was a perk called Bloom. It's the exact same thing what Bloom does. Obviously, this is one of my most favorite things because it clears out more ads than what I actually need to worry about. And then Echo of Instability, so I can get volatile weapons, more volatility in my void weapons from my grenade kills, which is crazy broken. As well as Echo of Domineering, after suppressing, you gain increased time or whatever. You don't need Echo of Domineering. I more use this because of a DPS build, but obviously I can change that at any time. And then I use Echo of Undermine for weakening. So the thing I should mention with the weakening here of Echo Undermining, that and suppression seem to have the same kind of effect. I don't know what it is. It has this weird effect, weaken and suppression, for some weapons or some ability combinations, if you don't know. So you can use that and it reloads void weapons and stuff, but that's just a kind of a bug, I would say. Otherwise, they're the 3 Warlock builds. I'll show you the Titan build that I will be probably running myself. So I hope you enjoyed this one. Alrighty, last but not least, we have the Titans. So like I said, don't worry about the weapons. So I've already got the first build set pretty much. If you don't already know, this is the main Titan build I think everyone uses. So using a Buoyant Leap, when you use pretty much the shield or whatever and suspend a target, you gain Woven Mail at the same time when you suspend your targets, but a Buoyant Leap, instead of shooting one of those strand threads, it does 3. The best way to utilize this armor piece as well, I say this to a lot of people, but I don't really say this out there, Rally Barricade. Only because it allows you to shoot. If you're not using Rally Barricade and you're using Towering, you're pretty much just giving your team a disadvantage. At the same time, yes, you can be shot at, but this is a combination that just works in sync with one another, and the benefits are obviously out of this world. Simple as this, you want to be running a Shackle Grenade with the Dredger Lash and the Into the Fray aspects. If you're not running that, then pretty much don't bother running this build. Running whatever you want to do with the jump, and obviously we only have the 1 melee. Simple as this, Thread of Transmutation, Thread of the Mind, Thread of Continuity, and Thread of Generation again is what I use with this build. So simple as this, it's just easy access, pretty much use your barricade, hang them up, damage them, throw a grenade, damage them, then you get your grenade back or you get your ability energy back, whatever you got first, doesn't matter, and just rewind. It's pretty much infinite hanging, one of the best abilities in the game right now. I would say personally one of the best. Another one that a lot of people are probably not going to use is probably a Heart of Immortalite Arc build. The reason I'm only going to be putting out 2 for the Titan is because thinking and looking back, like I said, there's only really 3 to 2 builds that everyone should be rocking. There's not really too much that needs to be said out there. So Titan's probably the easiest class to utilize the most. Similar as this, Heart of Immortalite, making sure you have high stat rolls in the areas that you want to be abusing. Me, personally, I'll be using my grenades and using my melee constantly, just for that little abusive fun. I know a lot of people don't agree with that, but it's like, you gotta have fun somewhere, don't we? Obviously, pretty much you want to have maxed out, or you want to have as much as possible. So when you're doing these, just always double check your stats. Like I just double checked mine. I knew I had a missing stat, and it was my discipline, as you can see there. Similar as this as well, if you're going into the build, this is what you want to run. You want to run out Knockout and Touch of Thunder with Pulse Grenade. If you don't understand why, go through the Touch of Thunder mods and it will show you why you want to be running Pulse Grenade. If you were running Storm Grenade, I don't know what to tell you, but personally I run Thunderclap. pulse grenade with thruster. Thruster is probably the more effective thing to have. Yes, you don't have a barricade, but still the thruster is just an easier way to get your abilities back faster at the same time. Spark of Magnitude, Spark of Shock, Spark of Resistance, and Spark of Ions. And that's all you gotta be rocking. It's quite simple, quite easy to utilize this build. Everyone should be able to do it. If you don't, that's all I can say. Hope you liked and enjoyed this video. I'll be making a guide, an in-depth guide of how to do the weekly Nightfall when it drops. Obviously, probably be 2-3 days after it comes out. So Friday my time, Saturday latest. Otherwise, till then, like and pretty much, I'll be streaming here sooner or later in October, December, and I'll also be streaming on Kick. If Bungie would give me a name change, I would probably change my name, but knowing Bungie being cheapskates they are and working too far into Marathon, they're just got to leave us blind. But I hope you guys enjoy the content, and I hope you guys try these builds. And good luck in the new Nightfall. I hope you have fun. I know I will be.